Hello everyone, and welcome to this follow-up video on ArrayList. In this video, we're going to look at actual coding examples to see how things are working. So here we have an ArrayList class called ArrayList Examples, where we're going to create an ArrayList. So the ArrayList is called ClassList. We add one person, Ada Lovelace, to it, and then we print it out. Our print ArrayList function is a loop that goes through each element and prints it. So we're going to run this. And you can see here that it printed out the element at index 0 is Ada Lovelace. So now I've pre-written, and I'll just uncomment some of the other additions that we can make to this array list. So just some values. We'll run it again, and we should see all of these elements added in order to the array list. Note that Ada Lovelace is printing twice because the first one is printed from the last time and we didn't clear. So we can go ahead and clear that. Now I want to show you what happens when you add a null element. So if you add a null element to an array list, it will appear in the array list at the location that it's added. So we should see Ada Lovelace, null, Mary Jackson, Alan Turing, etc. So I'll go ahead and clear that so we can see what happens next. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go and we're going to see what happens when we set a null value to a different value. So we're going to add in the code, and we're going to set that second value, so at index 1, and we're going to add Charles Babbage in there. So now if we run it again, instead of seeing that null value, we should see Ada Lovelace, then Charles Babbage, then Mary Jackson. And that worked out the way we expected. Always good to test your code, even if you're pretty sure about what it's going to do. So now we're going to look at, okay, what happens if we clear a class list? Like, how can we empty all the elements or set all the elements to null is really what we're doing. Getting rid of all the elements. And then how can we add elements in a different order? So I'm just going to add a little print statement that clearly states that this is the part where the array list is cleared, because once it's cleared, it's not going to have anything in it, and it's going to actually not print anything because there'll be nothing there to print. So just to show you that it is working. So when we run it, we see our initial print. Again, we didn't clear it before we ran it, so we'll go ahead and just rerun it so that we can see it without the previous results in there. Okay, so now we can see it prints out the list, then it clears the list, and then we run that print statement again, and it doesn't, it prints nothing. So let's go ahead, and we've cleared the array, and now we're going to add in a couple elements, and instead of printing cleared, we're going to print added elements. Spelled different wrong there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. So we clear the array, then we are going to print out re-adding elements in a different order. We're going to add Margaret Hamilton and Roscoe Giles, and then we're going to print the array list again. So now it should have the full list cleared, and then in a different order, and this list now only has 2 elements, Margaret Hamilton and Roscoe Giles. And so that's how we can add elements to an array. We can add null elements, but note that when an array list is cleared, or when it's originally created, it actually has no elements in it. And when even if you go through and print element by element, so even if you go through and use a for loop to print element by element, it is not going to print anything if there's no elements in it. So if we clear, or even when we initially declare an array list, it has nothing in it. So that's helpful information to know, and it allows you to know that if you want to make an array list for which you can put things in a specified order, what you need to do is you need to go through and add a bunch of null elements. So if you want an array list of size 5, you need to create a loop of size 5 and add 5 null elements to your array list. Otherwise, you can't set values. But yeah, that's what you can do to add null elements. That's how you can clear an array list, and that's how you can kind of re-add elements or put them in a different order. So just a quick coding look at what we looked at theoretically last time, and how, in fact, we can add elements, we can set elements, we can clear elements, which we hadn't looked at previously, but is quite useful. How we can print elements by writing a for loop that goes through each element in the size of the list and gets it at index I and then prints it out. And also how we can, we went over clear, yes. And then that's how we can print out an array list and do different array list functions in code.